football.
Flag football. I
Cool.
have football practice today.
Flag football, so you don't tackle each other and get hurt.
Because they'd be worried that Riley's going to hurt everyone.
Has anybody gotten hurt in flag football?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
What kind
My
of
torn
injuries?
hamstring last week. Oh, 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're sitting here with Emma and Riley, our two student teachers.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Thanks for having us.
How long have you guys been here? How long has it been now?
Like,
I think this week 10.
yeah.
Week
It should
10?
It should be about 10
we
weeks.
started at the end of September-ish.
Yeah.
Here we are.
And Emma, you're Mr. McGrath's student teacher? Just Mr. McGrath, right?
Just Mr. McGrath.
And Riley,
I have Mr. Kim and Mr. Sully.
the two of them.
Yes.
What a bunch. We love those
Fun
guys.
group. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So here we are doing a podcast on your last week with just a couple days to go. How do you feel about the experience?
What a roller coaster. It
was a lot.
Yeah. I loved it. I love this school. It's a really great community and very collaborative. But it's been a lot of work as well. Lots of long nights. Riley and I spent one night here till 11 p.m. unit planning.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. The janitor was like, "Oh, are you going?" And we're like, "We'll be here for another hour."
Well, the school technically closes at 12. So
Oh,
that's
I
when
know.
they kick
No,
you
I know.
out.
We were
You know.
we were on a fine line there.
And then we went home and worked some more. So
Yeah. It was a rough night.
There
Oh
were
my
some
gosh.
dark days, but we made it through. And now we're
It was
here.
good. It flew by. Like when you're starting and they're like, "Oh, 10 weeks you're going to be separated from everybody." But I don't know. I'm shocked it's done.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do we do now? I'm kind of lost.
Now we're adults.
Are we though?
It's kind of nice that you guys were both here at the same time and you seem
Yeah.
to collaborate really well together. It's a small school, so you get to know everybody here, I guess.
Yeah.
We were sitting in class. So originally, like I did my short practicum here and I was the only SFU student teacher.
Right.
And when we were leading into long practicum, I assumed I would also still be the only student teacher. And then we were sitting in socials. We had like a coursework together. It's like a mandatory socials course. And Emma was like, "Oh, I got my placement." I was like, "Oh, okay. Like, where are you going?" She's like, "Delview." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, I'm at Delview." And so it was like this really weird, and we just like happened to be sitting next to each other. We had never taken a course before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And so it all kind of worked out.
Yeah.
And then we started collaborating because we kind of knew what we were walking into and who we were teaching. And I had met Mr. McGrath earlier. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Lucky. I felt really lucky.
And we kind of leaned on each other the whole time through this process. Like, there was days where I was down and like she would support me and vice versa. And honestly, like without you, I don't know how this would have went. Like,
Yeah, I feel the same way.
yeah.
It can be an emotional roller coaster because if things don't go well, you feel really bad about it. And I remember student teaching at South Delta, and I have very few. Well, there was one guy there that I kind of collaborated with in science, but yeah, it was hard because most of the time I was pretty much alone. Yeah.
It can be isolating without support. So
Well, I think it's one of the things that people don't realize about teaching is it can be a pretty lonely profession, despite the fact you're around kids all the time.
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
I should mention we have Mr. Ewell here, another social studies teacher.
yeah, we're taking over. At least that's the plan.
Yep.
Yeah, so if you have buddies, that's terrific. Or if you're at a school where there's some collaboration and, find your people. And it's always the first thing I tell people who are new to a building. Like we try to include them in the staff room, like have lunch with, socialize. Like if you socialize, then that leads to other things, right? That you can connect on.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And you've already taught me so much, like just sitting with you in the staff room, learning about all of your like project-based learning. And then it led to like you sharing resources with me. So like being able to socialize and be a part of the community here has been super beneficial.
Yeah.
walking in the door right away. Like everybody's welcoming. Everybody wants to, like shake your hand and be like, oh, hi, like this is my room. Door's always open. This is a cool project that I do. Like I've picked up so many things from the both of you. And even during my short practicum.
We can't stop that. I don't have the power.
But that was also super beneficial. So, and sometimes you are in a pinch or you like don't know how to go about teaching something when you're new to the profession. You're like, I don't understand how this is going to translate in the classroom. And having you guys and your doors always open has been also really helpful.
Yeah.
I think it's
very
probably,
thankful.
It's one of those things that's probably not the most intuitive until you're actually in the building, is how much information is actually transferred in like conversations just in the hallway or the staff room, or you have a question, you finally figure out the right person to ask. And it's these little global, like this little epiphany where you're like, and everything suddenly is better. Or you maybe tried something that really you thought was going to work out, but didn't. And then somebody else is like, well, my experience, I like stalked Kung and Turpin because they hung out together. They're like joined at the hip. And I went down and did the old, I have a problem. And Kung was like, well, let me help you. And that's kind of how we hit it off.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, lots of stuff happens in between classes because during class you're so busy trying to get stuff done and tending to the students and all of that. And so if you guys popped in while we were teaching, that'd be a different story. I'd probably be like, can you wait a second? I'm dealing with a situation here, right?
Yeah.
Not trying to be unfriendly, but this is not the time. But like when you go into the staff room during lunchtime, we're all relaxed. We're like, we just chat about stuff. And that's a perfect time. And remember that for the future when you're in a staff room at a new school or whatever. Be social. Get in there. Again, if they have a staff room where people go, that's a good place to be.
I think this school's also, it sounds like it's quite unique. And the opportunities that all the teachers have, I feel like everybody teaches their own thing and something that they're passionate about, which is really beneficial for students too. Like all your project-based learning stuff. Or I know Miss Hansen she has like dance as a whole class because that's what her background is. So having those opportunities for students to come in and, execute their own personal strengths or find their strengths in their groove is really amazing to see. But you have to talk to people to get to know them and understand those things about them, right? They're not just going to walk into the store and be like, this is my thing.
Yeah. I see you have a huge, Yule has a notebook out with a bunch of questions or notes. I can't read your chicken scratch. I'm sorry.
Yes.
It's coded for me anyway.
You should have never taught me ChatGPT because then I put a couple of questions in, but I didn't like the output. So I came up with my own questions.
See, you're smarter than ChatGPT.
So do you want your first question?
Yes.
So what was your biggest surprise about going into a classroom?
Ooh, take us back to the moment you first arrived in a classroom.
Like, I mean, from the perspective of where you stood in front of the students and they see you through all your faults and all your strengths and they're sizing you up and you have something you want to say and you're trying to figure out the way to communicate it that's going to be impactful, meaningful, because they're brutal in how they assess it.
Oh, for sure.
Right? It's you're vulnerable. It's hard to put yourself out there, especially to kids who maybe aren't, thinking that, hey, I could really crush this person's soul.
Yeah.
But when was that moment where you, like, I can think of mine and it's a great story, but when was yours where you went, that's kind of a surprise. Didn't see that coming.
Surprise.
This is like interview prep.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Honestly, like for me, I wasn't that surprised walking in because I've worked with kids for so long. So like I'm around it. And so I walked in like, okay, same as usual. I don't know. I think for me, like at first, it was hard to gain their respect walking to the room, especially as like a young female teacher. It's hard. But for me, like building relationships with them building connections, getting to know them. Like every day I did question of the day. So I'd have a prompt on the board, and when I did attendance, everyone had to tell me a response to the question. And it was just such a quick way to get to know them really efficiently, and build those connections. And then from then on, like there was so much respect in the room, and the kids would participate and engage with the learning really effectively. So nothing really surprised me.
I had never worked with a high school age group before. My like comfort zone was probably kids between the ages of 5 and 7, like super like little elementary. So walking into a high school, I remember my short practicum, I walked into Mr. Kim's Law 12 class and I was mortified. And I think the only thing that really like helped get through was this idea of like humility and wearing yourself, like being open with the students. Like a high school kid can look at you and they know when you're lying. They know who you are and they know when you're trying to put up a front. And so just showing them respect, I feel like they'll start to respect you too. And that to an extent, right? Like I'm the teacher in the room, please respect me. But it's a two-way relationship. And I think that sometimes if you were to go up there and start just like demanding things of them, it's not going to necessarily translate. At least that's my personal teaching philosophy.
Yeah, and I'd say to that, like trying to be my authentic self around them as well has gone a long way. Like showing I'm human, I'm not perfect, I don't know everything, and like joking around with them and being goofy has gone such a long way.
It was my very first day, and we had just started, and Mr. Kim went and sat down at the back of the room, and I took over, and I looked at them, and I was like, I don't know how to turn the projector on. Like immediately, like I was like, I am already running into a tech issue. And then I had another issue. Within the 5 seconds of having the classroom for the first time, I came up with 4 different things where I was like beet red, I was sweating, I was panicking. And at some point I just turned to the kids and I was like, everything that's supposed to go wrong on your first day is currently going wrong. And they all just kind of like looked at me and like really awkwardly smiled. But I think that was like okay, well, if you're just open with them and like they get it in a way.
Grace under pressure.
Yeah.
Stuff happens.
Yeah.
Great first day.
What's your story?
So mine was long practicum. I had prepared one of my favorite lessons of the whole world and was dying to show off to my FA. And I had graduated the day before, so I took my day to go graduate. Oh no, what was it? Yeah. Was that? The setup was I had prepped this and I had this follow-up lesson, that's what it was. But I had everything printed out. And so the one day I had missed, this TOC had covered, and the TOC will remain nameless, but they came in and got ready to teach. And I didn't realize that I had left all my notes and the photocopies the next day because I wanted to come in and teach. So my FA sits down and he'd had a bit of challenges in getting in. So I was really focused on making sure this was going to be meaningful. I get in, start teaching. And you know, when you have that sort of, why is everyone kind of looking that way?
Yeah.
And there's a girl who just kind of put her hand up and she said, Miss Jill, the TOC covered this yesterday. I was like, well, that's not possible. And as all the pending, I thought, that's why there wasn't that many handouts. So the TOC had come in, saw my lesson, was like, this is amazing. I'm going to teach this instead of the lesson I'd left. And so my FA, to their credit, just sort of smiled and said, hey, just left. And I was mortified because he hadn't done it. So this is like, as you know, you're under pressure and this. And I thought, and so this student said, well, this is kind of awkward. I said, yeah, well, you know what? These things happen. Let's just pivot and we'll reset.
Yeah.
But I was like, thankfully comfortable enough with who I was. But yeah, I could see how that just like the worst moment, right? Because I'm like, you're trying to make the right impression. And I was just really getting my long practicum going. Anyway, yeah, never forgot that.
Yeah, but then the kids got to see you be human, which is really important as well.
Kung said something to me once because I had came here and I was, I'd been bumped at SDSS because I didn't have any seniority, the pandemic, and I show up at Delview and I come in and like everyone's kind of watching you because it's a smaller school and you realize pretty quick that, oh, wow, this school runs really well and I really wanted to be here. And I can remember I'd had just a brutal day and I had said, I just really struggled with this group of kids. And Kung said, great, so you're human. Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's occasionally nice to get a refresher from a guy who's got a lot of experience because I talk to Kung all the time.
Yeah.
often about stuff that's not related to school, but still we do, because I'm a super interesting guy and lots to learn and share. So, yeah.
Yeah, it can be hard to remember that as well in this profession, because with all the professional development and all these new things that we have to, think about, and when we're teaching, you can kind of forget, like, we are human, we can make mistakes, and it's okay for the kids to see that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the end, like, I remember my first day very clearly, because I tried to do a lesson on genetics, and I showed this. Actually, we were just doing it so I've mastered it. We were just doing this in innovation, where I show hemophilia through the royal family and a pedigree, which is basically a family tree showing who had hemophilia and who didn't. And this is a sex-linked trait, so it's linked to this X chromosome. Went through the whole thing, and the students were just blank stares at me, and just, they didn't have a fun time. And I was like, I did not get through to them. And that was my first lesson ever. So I went to the staff room. This was at South Delta. Sat down, and another teacher came by, because they saw, me with my hand on my face and really not feeling great about myself. But he came over, sat down, and basically said, "You're human, and they need to see that." And also, everybody has a moment like that, and all you have to do is just begin figuring out, like, what was wrong with that, learn from that, and then on to the next thing. That's all you can do, right? And then it gets better over time, which is totally true. So, and in the end, it's not about the lesson when working with kids. It's about working with kids, right?
Yeah,
and
totally.
It's like you're trying to get them to understand a little bit of science or social studies, but in the end, it's just trying to get them to maybe have a love for just learning, to help each other out, to learn how to collaborate, to learn how to communicate. Those are the important things that's the other curriculum that we have.
Lifelong learners. That's what we're always told.
Yeah.
Just true.
So I'm just wondering, like, can we go like all the way back to, let's maybe start with Emma. Like, when did you know? Like, was teaching always on your mind? Like, what did you grow up playing teacher with your family or your siblings or whatever, or did it just come to your mind when you started university? Like, how did that happen?
Well, I don't have any teachers in my immediate family or like close relatives, so there was no influence at home in that way. But growing up, when I did Irish dancing and dance and stuff, I would volunteer to teach at my studio, like younger girls, like preschool and a little bit older than that. So that's kind of where my mentoring started. And then in high school, I did peer mentoring all throughout as well in classes. And I was like student council president. And then after high school, I did peer mentoring in university to first-year university students. And then I worked for the Boys and Girls Club in the Township of Langley in recreation. So it was like all these things adding up in my life where I was like, this is like, and I loved it. It is like, I never dreaded going to work. I like looked forward to seeing the kids, and I would talk about them at home and like, oh, so-and-so did this today, and ha ha ha. And then so it brought me joy and fulfillment. And so I was just like, yeah, I think this is my path. And it's felt like very natural, and like being here like brings me so much joy and like fulfillment and energy. And obviously it can be draining, but like interacting with the students brings me a lot of, fulfillment and energy.
So it's something that as soon as you got into university, you're thinking, this is my path?
Yeah. I mean, at first the plan was law school. Mm-hmm. And so I was on like SFU's pre-law society. But then I'd done panels and stuff and talked to some of the lawyers, and they're like, it's a lot of work. It's like your whole life is working, and can kind of take you away. Like the work-life balance isn't always there. Mm-hmm. And just like arguing, being a lawyer and stuff, I was like, oh, I don't think that's for me. And then I reflected on all my experiences, and I'm like, you know what? I think in my gut, I always wanted to be a teacher, but there was things like, I guess I was listening to like societal pressures, like to be a lawyer for like the status. But then I'm like, I don't care. Like I want to do what makes me happy at the end of the day, and being with kids is what makes me happy. So yeah, that's my journey.
Cool. Riley?
Oh, I wanted to be a teacher when I was like 5. I was like, yep, that's it. I'm done. I have a little sister and we're very close, and she means so much to me. So I feel like, unfortunately, she got a lot of that, of like me teaching her my math homework on the chalkboard growing up. And I remember being in grade 4 and I was like, yep, I'm going to be a grade 4 teacher. And then I got to high school and I'm like, in grade 8, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be a grade 8 teacher. And then I became a senior. And then it was actually once, and along that path, I was always picking up jobs where like I ran a lot of summer camps, and I really enjoyed that. And I played a lot of sports. And so I was like coaching a little bit, or I got to captain a few teams, and that really meant a lot to me. I wouldn't say that I was a strong academic student. I actually like had to work really hard in school. It didn't come easy for me, and it was not a fun process, but it's more of like the social thing and being around people and helping people and or helping them understand. I found a lot of joy in. And then when I went to university, I had this freak out. I think there was a lot of societal pressure. I'm like, maybe this isn't a good enough job, or like I shouldn't be doing this or shouldn't be following that. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm following a path that I chose when I was 5. Like, is that really responsible? And it was like this whole big thing. And it was like one summer, it was probably my 3rd year of university. I went back to summer camps and I worked over the summer. I was like, we'll see how this summer goes and this will be it, right? Like I'll choose whether I go back and I switch up completely or not. And I kind of found a passion for it again, working with people and, kids. And I was like, okay, no, this is right. And then I just kept going because I'm stubborn and it would be a lot of work to try and figure something else out. So
it's interesting because I actually teach with the careers class. In some ways, it's better if you know what you don't like than trying to figure it out. Because I think the choice, like I if I think of my kids who, like, one wants to be a physiotherapist, I think, and she tacks between that and maybe just doing sciences. And it's also to say to her, just follow your passion, because you may find what you're ultimately going to do. I mean, this is career 3 for me, and I came about this in a really different way, and yet I love what I'm doing. And that's if you could have that. My wife hates my guts some days because she's just like, you love your job. And it's certainly fair. Like, we joke about it, but it's true. Like, as much as it's so much work, and in some ways it's some of the hardest things I've done, I'm like you. I love coming to school. Like, yeah.
I was fortunate. My dad, like, loves his job. Absolutely loves it. And so coming home from work every day and him, like, always being happy and him always being like...
What does he do?
He is an inspector for airplane engineering mechanic parts. Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, he loves it. He thinks it's the coolest thing ever. I don't really get it, but...
He's very meticulous.
Yes, very meticulous. But to get to see him, like... He never has to worry about going to work because he's ready. He enjoys it every day. And whereas like my mom works in the hospital system and it's quite stressful and she has a harder time with it. And people there, can be a little bit more frustrating. And so that was another thing that I was fortunate enough that my parents were always like, do something that you love or do something that you care about. And so I feel like a lot of passion is behind this career. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Turpin always tells me, do something you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think about that quote a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. It is totally like that. And it's interesting hearing you guys and how you came to be, going into education and doing this, because a lot of students that we talk to are driven to a certain career, and you wonder why they want to do that. And I ask them, like, so why do you want to be a doctor? Because I was put in that position as well. Growing up, like, my parents wanted me to be a doctor. And then they would always, I have cousins who are doctors, and look at cousin John. He became a doctor. Look at him now. My sister eventually became a doctor, so that the pressure was off eventually, but not before I became a teacher. But I just remember, having to go through that. I did the MCATs like twice. That's a 6-hour exam that I had to study like all summer for. And
Slacker.
yeah, did that. And it came to an essay where I wrote, why do I want to be a doctor? And I was blank. I was like, I really don't. And like you said, and you as well, looking back on all the things that you've done and enjoyed, that's what like summer camps. I did summer camps, after school care, all those kinds of things that brought me joy. And that's why I'm here.
Yeah, and I think it's so nice after a while when you follow your gut and your intuition and not just like listen to the pressures from like family or society and, be a lawyer, be a doctor. Because I also had like, my daughter's going to law school. My grandpa's saying, you're going to be a lawyer one day. Like those, it gets in your head and you feel like you have to meet that expectation. But when you make the decision for yourself and it's not based on money or status, it's based on like making a difference, it's so fulfilling. And you're like, I don't know, I felt that. And I'm happy with my choice.
You could make lots of money and be miserable.
Yeah,
or exactly. You could, have the work-life balance, like you said, and have enough to survive and do well. And, maybe that's better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yul, do you have another question in that giant book of yours?
My giant book? Shall I consult?
Yeah. Well, you came ready with questions. I never do that, but
sorry,
you came ready.
Well, I wanted to make sure.
I'm unprepared.
Plus, I threatened them. So,
what?
If you were to think back, what
kind of animal would you be?
There's a story there, I'm sure. What was your most pleasant surprise though of getting into the classroom? Because like teaching
pleasant surprise.
Teaching is sometimes it's this discovery, right? You learn as much about the students as you do about yourself.
Yeah.
And this is the problem because the kids are watching you all the time. And like I reflect on when I deliver, when you deliver something in class and you see it fall flat, you watch it roam around the desert and it dies.
Yep.
And you're just like, dang, I put some time into that. It's humbling, right? But you'll have that moment where you can see a kid you've tried to connect with and they either get it or you've made the connection. That it's the most powerful thing you will do in teaching. I think I really believe that. But it's these pleasant surprises where things I just took for granted or things that, like what was your surprising where you're like, huh?
I think for me, it's like the impact I'm actually having on them individually.
Totally.
Because there's so many students in the room and I try to connect with each and every one of them every day, but obviously not every day I'm talking to all of them. But then I've had a few students, go on vacation recently and they're not going to see me before I leave. And they're like, I have something for you. And they've written like these really nice notes and given me gifts. And I'm like saying you're the coolest teacher I've ever had and we're really going to miss you. And the work that we're doing in the room is so meaningful and things like that where I'm like, whoa, like, I really didn't think I had that impact on them. And to hear that, even today I had one student who, has some challenges and we're working on it, but he came up to me and I won't see him and he said, Miss Jorssen, you're the best teacher I've ever had. Like, and just to hear that, it just, I don't know. And I get frustrated with him sometimes. And even despite that, he's like, you're my favorite teacher. And to just hear that and know the impact I'm having, which I didn't anticipate as a student teacher.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it makes all the hard work and dedication to this like worth it.
Don't do too much. I didn't bring any Kleenex, so we don't want to.
Yeah, no, but I don't know. It's just like, it just reassures me and makes me feel like I'm in where I'm meant to be.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, good.
It's probably my favorite part of the day is like the end of the day or the end of the class right after lunch or something. And the kids just like linger for a little minute
Chats.
And they want to chat or they, there's just even in the hallway, the little things like I was surprised at how quickly, like you said, like as student teachers, we were able to build some of these relationships and how meaningful they were. And I have a few students, younger students, and I think it's hard to get them into the classroom. Maybe before attendance wasn't great. They've got lots of stuff going on in their lives. So even to just have them consistently in the room and to know that you're creating a safe and welcoming environment for them has been like, that's why we got into the profession in the first place or the want to do it. So it's been surprising on how quickly you can build that. But with that yeah, it's fantastic. I don't really know what to say.
I'm just wondering, just a follow-up question to that. Like, I can't remember myself, but can you guys remember maybe a couple of things that because you had been students in high school.
Yeah.
But teaching is different because you're on the other side. What was one thing that surprised you or that you thought, that's interesting. I didn't know this went on when you first got into it? Like you don't know until like all the theory stuff at SFU or with UBC or wherever, they tell you things, but it's not until you come into a school and step into the role or see behind the scenes what goes on that things surprise you that you didn't know as a high school student.
As I say to Mr. McGrath, he laughs because one day I was like, oh, the needs, there's so much need, like so many needs, or there's so many, diverse learners in the room and trying to, help them meet the learning goal. As one person in the room, especially now, like it's hard to find like, support or additional support in the room. And so it's like just you. And, behavioral issues, ELL, international students, learning disabilities, things like that. There's so many things compounding, and the level of attention and work that you have to put in to, keep the room running has been a shock to me. And I never thought about that as a student before. Yeah.
I think I had this assumption like, oh, teachers just like know the answer. Like they always know the answer when it comes to the content of the course. I'm like, yeah, well, of course they know the answer. And then I'm sitting up there teaching Law 12 in my short practicum. Never studied law in my life. And I'm like, okay, time to know the answer. And so all the studying that goes in behind it before every lesson and trying to like figure everything out and come up with questions and guiding ideas and almost guessing what the students are going to struggle with or have extra questions or need extra support and help on, and having to kind of go ahead and learn that, especially as new teachers coming in, was not really something I had so seriously thought about, and definitely not something I thought about as a student. Or even the collaboration. We talk a lot about like, oh, we'll bring the learning outside of the classroom. That's so easy to say. And as a student, when you're doing those activities, or sometimes you can be like, okay, well, why am I doing this? Or what is really the meaning of that? And now on the other side of it, everything is so calculated and meticulous, and everything connects back to something, whether it's because you're pulling it out of the classroom or it connects back to those big learning targets and big ideas. So that's been really interesting to try and figure out.
Yeah. And just in general, noticing how much work teachers put into this profession.
It's scary.
That goes unnoticed by the public, which is kind of sad. It's a lot of work and a lot of things you're focusing on and trying to get better at, or, certain students that you're trying to support behind the scenes that no one knows about.
In terms of the planning, I'm sure you guys, because you had a TOC day where you had to plan for a TOC. That always gets me when I have to call into TOC, and it's eye-opening how many notes I have to leave for them about how to do like simple things even, right, that I want them to do, because we just do it. We're just used to doing all of that and then explaining, okay, this student, that's what they need, and this person has to go here, and this is how they need to be seated because we figured this out. And that's like, there's so much to prep for if you want that person just stepping in for one day to do a proper job.
I had like highlighted sticky notes on the Bluetooth speaker and the name of the Bluetooth speaker and where all the remotes were, and trying to figure everything out like around the room and clean everything up before the sub came in. It was...
You take it for granted because you're there, you're doing it every day, and then you have to call somebody in, and you have to describe everything that you do to them. That's really eye-opening.
And I think it's this, if you're trying to be intentional, like to speak to your point, it is hard because the kids don't see that sometimes. Like you may have a conceptualized how you want to frame something, but it may not be obvious or explicit to the kids. And so to speak to this, and for me, like taking a chance on teaching in the hallway, getting some resources from the school, and then having a couple of guiding questions, and then going around with these guiding questions, letting the kids all participate that way. I can remember a kid asking me, like, why don't we just do that in the classroom? And I was like, well, because it's cramped. Like, it was a perfectly and it gets you up, and they actually really enjoyed it. But it was having to tell them that because I had thought about it, because the room I was in before was really tight space, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, there's tons of planning that goes on, for sure. And you were mentioning, just understanding the topic that you're teaching. I remember when I first started teaching science, which was like 6 years into my teaching career because I couldn't find a science job. I taught everything else but science. And from when I finally started teaching science, I realized that I didn't know as much as I did. Even having a science degree, it was when kids would ask me certain basic questions and I'd be like, oh, crap, do I really understand that concept? And this is something I tell the students as a study tool to, teach it to somebody else, because that's when they start asking you questions, you're like, oh, shoot, I don't know that. Then you start making mental notes or writing it down and trying to figure it out for real, right? Because anybody can use fancy terms and anybody can draw something on a whiteboard, but to get those questions, and that's when you figure out, oh, do I really know this or not?
Well, yeah, for me, like I study political science, so I'm more social sciencey, but for like Socials 8, it's very history based. So a lot of these things I'm teaching, I did not know previously. So I had to teach to myself before teaching it to them.
Yeah.
So really studying, and that's another part of the teaching is like, in order to prep, you have to learn the stuff yourself in order to prep to teach it in the class. So it's like extra work if you don't know the topic even.
And teaching it for the first time, you learn a whole lot more as well, right? And then as you teach more of the same stuff, you learn more and more, and then eventually you'll get it.
Yeah, I think that's another reason why the dropout rate for new teachers is so high. It's like 30% or something of people coming in don't make it past like year 5 or something like that. But again, I think it comes down to that idea. Like, it's so much in your first years, because not only are you learning classroom management and all these behavioral things that we need to assessment. It's the content too. And then, okay, the content, now plan it, now make it efficient, now connect it with UDL and getting everybody to the same point. So there's a lot that goes on. Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited though. Like, it's a lot, but it's also such a fun challenge. Like, when it does click, and when that lesson, I know we've talked about lessons like flopping and not hitting, but when they do hit and you see the students and they're able to teach each other or talk about it in the classroom, or you are walking in the hallway and you hear them talking about it in the hallway, it's like the most exciting feeling ever. It's fantastic.
Absolutely. Let's get away from this shop talk, and how about let's go with a question like, what are you guys interested in outside of? I know everything is all about teaching right now because it is consuming.
Yeah.
And I like to think of it like I go on vacation and I take photos for the express purpose of showing the students the next year.
Yeah.
Right. That's, I can't stop thinking about that kind of stuff. Oh, they would love to see this at a museum or wherever, right? But what do you guys do for fun? You're pointing at Riley.
Oh, I don't really know anymore.
He's playing sports.
Yeah, I grew up playing sports, and it was a huge part of my life and my personality, I think, which is not always a good thing, but and then when I went to university, I competed competitively in cheerleading at UVic, and we went to Worlds a couple times, and I captained that team, and it was like my entire life. And then when I graduated and I left, you're all of a sudden like, oh my goodness, what do I do now? Like, I'm not a student and I'm not doing cheerleading. Like, I was kind of like confused, and I moved home back to Delta, and a lot of my friends from high school here were still playing sports, like on rec teams together, and they were playing dodgeball. And I was like, there is no way that I'm playing dodgeball with a bunch of adults. Like, that's my worst fear in life. Like, I didn't like it in high school. I don't want to do it now. But I told myself, okay, the next sport, whatever it is, I have to play, just because it was a social thing, like trying to get out and see people and staying active or whatever. And it ended up being flag football was the next one. And we started practicing, and that whole first season, I thought it was supposed to be like chill, like we were just supposed to have like fun. Oh, we lost miserably. It was really tough. And then we just kept practicing, and a lot of us were super competitive. So it just escalated. So I'm still playing flag football. It's really all I got going on right now other than teaching, but
You're enjoying it?
yeah. No, it's fun. I enjoy it more for the social aspect. And
well, how often do you do it? Like practice? There's practice and there's competition?
practicing games. So at least twice a week. And then in the summer we were still practicing, and we like played in a couple tournaments and stuff. But yeah, it's something. It's been interesting to try and relearn as an athlete. Like the football and cheerleading are not similar at all, but at the same time, like I played basketball super competitively in high school, and a basketball zone defense is very similar to football or flag football zone defense. And so I found a lot of similarities in sports backgrounds, or I grew up playing soccer. I like joined a women's league when I got back into soccer. And so those have been interesting to keep my brain active in that athletic standpoint and like understanding the game and the competitive aspect behind it. So I guess, yeah, I like it, but it's just so different.
For myself, well, growing up, it was dance. Like I started dancing at 2, but then I switched to...
What kind of dance?
I started in like ballet and jazz.
Okay.
Yeah. And then my mom found an ad for Irish dancing. And so when I was 5, I pivoted and focused on that. And I did that till I was like 17. So that was a big chunk of my life. That was my life when growing up. Traveled a lot for that. And then in high school at Lord Tweedsmuir, we had a dance program. So I took dance from grade 8 to 12, and then was on like dance teams and stuff like that. So that was a big part of my life. Ever since I've graduated, I haven't really been dancing, which has been hard, but I want to get into it again at some point. Recently, I've been into yoga. So I go to yoga classes to just relax and like, I don't know, be more connected with my body. And travel, like you said, like travel's been a huge part of my life recently. And yeah, hoping to teach abroad.
I remember Lord Tweedsmuir's dance team. Mm-hmm. Like they were really good. I remember that was like the thing. Like even here in North Delta, people like knew of the dance because we didn't have anything like that. In Em and I are the same age, so it would have been the same grad class. But yeah, they had a cool reputation.
Surrey has a really huge dance program.
Yeah,
it'd be cool to bring that over to Delta as well. But
cool.
Yeah,
for the future.
Delview has a Bhangra dance team, and they're amazing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'd like to see that.
I said, well, I've seen like Harge when they did it the winter last year.
Yes,
they did. It was yeah,
they're good.
Yeah,
well, that's awesome.
I think some of them dance outside of the school as well, so they're good at it coming in. So, but yeah, they're tremendous. Yeah.
That's cool. Reality TV.
Okay, let's talk about reality. What show do you watch, Emma?
Oh, what don't I watch? Well,
all of it.
The Bachelor, The Bachelorette. I just watched The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, The Kardashians.
The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives?
Yeah. It's on Hulu or Disney Plus.
Oh,
it's really fascinating.
Just
follow these Mormon wives. I don't know if I should talk about this on the podcast.
Well, I just saw the Book of Mormon, so I know a lot about Mormons now. Okay. I feel like an expert.
No, it's a good show. I'd recommend if you like trash TV.
Okay. And what about it makes you happy watching it?
It's just escapism, I think.
Yeah.
You know, you can turn your brain off and go, oh, my life could be like that. Or like, you get to dive into people's lives, and that is so different from your own. I don't know, something about it.
Yeah,
I like it. But I actually took a university class. It was a sociology class or gender women's studies about reality TV, and we analyzed different reality shows and from through a sociological lens and the meanings behind it. Yeah, it was really cool. And like, I don't know. Oh, I like Too Hot to Handle, stuff like that. Like, just really.
It's interesting because it's really a fairly recent phenomenon, like reality TV. Like if I think of me growing up, and I'm generously a little bit older than you, like reality TV was you just watch TV to escape and it was like Thursday night was the night and you didn't want to miss it because then Friday you'd have nothing to talk about with your peers. Yet Survivor really switched it and then there was this flood of reality TV. And I always thought like, if I wanted the real lives of teachers, it'd be like, yeah, well, boy, that'd be quite the show.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like
that would be crazy.
So. I would love that. Oh.
Mine would be boring.
Wait,
I don't know how you get reality everything.
TV?
I watch it a little bit. So it's interesting. My wife has what we jokingly refer to as her big girl job, and it requires a lot of rigor and it's very formal, and she will watch it and I'm always shocked because she's really smart. But for her, it's just, I don't have to, I don't invest in it beyond, I just sit down and relax.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to kind of figure that out. There had to be some point to it. Not like The Bachelor, I can't watch it because I give a running criticism and commentary through part of it. And I usually end up, my wife asking me to leave or be quiet. So, yeah.
Yeah, for my wife and I, it'd be Survivor. Amazing Race we loved because of the travel aspect and just trying to strategize and figure out how to get somewhere and do something. And that was really cool. Like solving those kinds of trouble, the conundrums that you get into was really interesting for us. But I think, escapism, and also we're attracted to the drama. We don't want drama in our own lives, but if we see it on TV, it's better.
Exactly. We're out of it, but we can watch it still.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
What were you going to say, Riley?
You said you were going to say that your life. You said, mine would be boring, but like I don't know how you get done everything that you get done in a day. Like your life fascinates me, Mr. Kung. How do you do what you do?
You have so many little projects.
Believe me, I've cut down a lot.
Oh my god!
And she called you Mr. Kung.
Mr. Kung.
You can't. Yeah. Old habits die hard, right?
It's I don't know. They always say, if you're busy, you get more done. And I think that's totally true. Like if I didn't have stuff to do, I don't think I'd be just procrastinating all day. I think, I still procrastinate once in a while. Like I get down the rabbit hole on the internet or YouTube or wherever, Reddit, and look into things and go, that's interesting. Let's learn more. But yeah, I think I've learned to say no a lot to things because I used to be a lot more involved at the school with student council. With I used to coach when I was first starting off here, but somebody gave me some advice. They're like, "Yeah, you have to learn to say no, otherwise you just have no life, and also you can't do everything well." So,
that's true.
But I find the time. I find the time to get stuff done. If it's important to me, I will work all night to get it done. There's no stopping me. I'm obsessive about that. For example, like programming. If I think there's an easier way to do something, I know how to do this. I just need the time. I'll just work all night on it and finish it. Right. I can't stop myself from not doing. I can't stop myself. I just have to do it. So that's just me. And it is boring.
That used to be me, not anymore.
Yeah, Mr. Kim. Yeah. John, he's
it's crazy.
Obsessive about certain things and he'll go right into it. And that's why he was joking at Pro D about sleep. Because it's true. He brags about having 9 hours. That's his brag. He'd be like, I got 9 hours yesterday. I'm like, good for you, sir.
Yeah, we did a Pro D Day assessment with him. and he was up all night working on this assessment package.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
you were in the session. Okay.
Yeah, it was for me or Riley and I.
That's like why he created it, was to kind of help us with assessment.
For the two of you.
Yeah. We showed up at 8:30
package.
and we're sitting with Mr. Sully, and he didn't. John didn't show up, or Mr. Kip didn't show up until like 10:30.
Yeah, because he had finally got some sleep.
Yeah.
He fell asleep at like 3:00.
Oh my gosh.
So we waited 2 hours.
It was a beautiful package, though.
It is.
Like,
I've read
really,
it.
Yeah, it really explained everything and connected everything, and it was very helpful.
Yeah, it was. Really
Yeah.
But same thing when he puts his mind to something, it's like
When he showed me, I thought, oh, you did a like a conference, like you did a keynote,
No.
or you were, because he did mention having to present to a bunch of people, and he voluntold Sally to do this with him, and I thought that's why he has the package, because he's like got a group of 30 people or something.
yeah.
But he made that for the two of you.
Yeah.
so kind.
The Delta District was trying to put something together, and we had some Zoom meetings and calls with other student teachers and essays. And then we did a Pro D Day separately where he created that
Yeah.
to kind of help us all out.
I totally understand, because I'm like that as well. Sometimes I just have to do it well, and I can't stop myself. Yeah.
I thought that was a very kind generalization, the characterization of it. Yeah. But that's why you're a gift to the school.
Yeah, exactly.
I have fun. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. Everything I do, I have fun with. Otherwise, I would say no to it. And I have said no to many things. So there's a good tip. Sometimes you have to do certain things that are not fun, but if it's like volunteering for something, I would never volunteer for something that I don't think is going to go well, or it's going to be, or somebody else can do better. I would never do that.
It's fair.
It's a good life lesson.
And it's hard to say no, because I had that last year where I got approached about helping out with clubs, and I thought, okay, yeah. And with committee work and that, and I realized I basically hadn't seen any staff for about 6 weeks, and it became a running joke when I'd go to the staff room to be like, oh, you're alive. But it's true, and a couple of people said it's okay to say no, but you kind of feel like, yeah, I felt this pull towards trying to be helpful, and yeah, so did a better job this year. But
it's a sacrifice. If you don't say no, then there's other things in your life that you want to do well that you cannot do well, because it's taken over that time. And so, yeah, my thing nowadays is like, if I don't think I can do it better than anybody else, and if I don't think it's worth my time, then I'll say no easily. Yeah.
I think that's a good lesson, especially for new teachers coming into the profession, or new people, like young people going in anywhere to any kind of new job. No is a full sentence, and that's sometimes really hard. There are parts that you just kind of have to do, and they aren't the most fun. I have a lot of marking to do. It's not the most fun. You can't just sit there and say no, though. But then you have to kind of think about it, and you have to be strategic about it in a way. Is this a valuable asset to my time, or is this going to hinder something else that's moving forward?
Yeah. And finding that balance of taking care of yourself as well. Like if it's affecting yourself and your sleep, and then you're showing up to school, grumpy or sleepy in front of the kids, like that's going to affect the day. So just taking care of yourself, but picking and choosing what you want to do. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's so easy as a young teacher, because I remember just doing everything, and people would just say, hey, can you do this? Because they're like, ask the new guy. I'm like, yeah, I could do that. Yeah, sure, I'll do that. But it was just exhausting, and I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
And the unhappiness then kind of goes into your teaching while you're working with kids, and then you get frustrated because you're so tired, because you're thinking about 100 other things that you have to do after the class, right?
Yeah.
And it's just not healthy. No. It's not healthy for anybody. So it's better to do a few things well. But having said that, like, it can be all consuming especially when you're new, because you're creating new lessons and you're just haven't figured out how to be efficient with marking yet. Like, you've got a pile of marking there. it's really easy to say no to everything and not participate in the school culture and not see kids in a new light, because that's really what I think when I'm volunteering with kids like STEM Mastery, or taking some time to go see the school play or going to watch sports or whatever. You get to see those same students that you teach in the classroom excel at other things, which is so cool. Because that kid who's just sitting in your room and they don't seem very motivated, like all of a sudden you have seen them do super well playing sports. And then that's something you can bring to the classroom, and that's something you can connect on, which is really cool. Something I learned a long time ago.
Yeah. That was a huge turning point in my practicum experience. Was I had the opportunity to coach the senior boys soccer team here. And
bless you.
Thank you. I've played soccer for like over 17 years. I know the sport, and I've played somewhat competitively, right? And I helped coach the senior girls team here last year, but walking into that senior boys team, I don't know them. They don't know me. And then all of a sudden we're trying to figure this out together. And the relationships that I built on the field and at practice translated. I had probably half of the team in my classes as well. It was an amazing link, because all of a sudden the respect that you build for each other outside of the classroom, when you do step into the classroom and I'm asking for the class's attention, and there's this one kid sitting next to one of my players, they're like, yo, stop talking. And all of a sudden, like, they're managing half of the class for you, right? Because you have that relationship outside, and you can have similar interests, and I got to come and see you guys at STEM Mastery, and that's a whole another group of students that I've never been able to connect with before. And now even the hallways, they feel warmer and stuff. Like the effort, or the way that you go and present yourself and take time to go and see kids at all these different points really does mean a lot, and translates very well into the room as well.
Yeah, I've had a few students ask me to come watch like their volleyball game. And so one day Riley and I went and watched after school, and they were so excited, like, oh, Miss Jorssen, Miss Jorssen. And they were like waving at me and kept looking at the bench, like they were so excited. And that meant so much to them as well, to see their teacher show up for them. And so, yeah, I loved it. And to see them in that other light where they're thriving at volleyball, it's really cool.
Yeah, when the senior girls won their South Frasers, we like had a little announcement in class too. We were like, congratulations, because we had, I think, 4 of the girls from the team, and even paying enough attention to the school environment and community and bringing that into the room and getting to celebrate them in front of their other peers for their strengths is super important.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, because in different classrooms in the school, you can imagine them having different identities, right? And maybe in your class, they're quiet and they're not a leader, but outside of that, they could be completely different.
Totally. Yeah.
And when you see that, that's something that you can acknowledge, right? Yeah. Cool. Got any other questions, Yul?
Not off the top of my
I'll tell you what I do for fun, guys. I lesson plan and I mark.
That's what we do right now. Wait, I have a question for you too.
Yeah? Okay, go.
To?
Yeah, you're the interviewer now.
Okay.
This is exciting.
What is
my favorite color?
A life lesson, or
life lesson.
A lesson to new teachers. A life lesson or a lesson to new teachers that you would want us to know.
Do you want to go first or you want me to?
Go ahead.
I think if you're really committed, and I mean it from a position of humble, if you're really committed to being effective at your craft, and I use the word craft intentionally because it presupposes skills that you're lifelong committed to improving on, you'll learn more from a bad lesson than you will from a good lesson. And it's much like life, where when everything's going great, everything's great. But an organization shows its true colors when things are bad. And when it's that where you can rally. And if I think of some of the stuff we've been through here in the school, we've really shown our true colors when things weren't great. And that was really powerful. And it's hard to not be self-critical. Like, I think about what I do all the time in class and how I can improve and how I can change it. Because for me, I recognized when I came in as an older teacher, I had a short window to try to be effective. And so I'm ruthless in how I criticize myself, because some of the kids are too. And I want to give the best version of that. And do I always meet it? Nope. No. But it's the process of trying to always improve it. And I found that it's if I take myself out of the equation and a kid's, put it this way. I was at SDSS. I inherited how I got my start, where I inherited these classes, and it was pretty chaotic. And the kids were all like, oh, what's this going to be like? This new teacher's taking over career life. And I realized it was like, wow, it's a pretty amazing curriculum. And I structured it as how to function in the real world. Mm-hmm. And I worked at it, and I offered the students, what do you guys want to learn? Let's embark on this together. And I had one kid who was just brutal to connect with, really hard to connect with. And Kung's heard the story. But right before Christmas, as all the kids were leaving, oh, Mr. You'll have a great Christmas. And this kid who rarely said much, you could sit with him and he would tell you, but rarely participated. And he kind of hung back. And as we left, he just stopped and he said, hey, thanks for making this class not suck so much. And I was like, yeah, I'll take it.
That's a big win.
Yeah. And it's funny because we joke about it. And I hope he is having a fabulous life, because I thought it was like this raw honesty. But I felt really great because he felt comfortable enough that he could be that honest with me. Mm-hmm. So, but it's I never take anything for granted, because I think so much of what we do plays out, and I approach everything with kindness. I think as teachers, you find yourself picking weird hills to die on. And I always try to put myself back as what it was like when I was a student. And I graduated when my parents were in the Middle East, so I did it largely on my own. So I inform it differently. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you never know what that one thing is that somebody carries away with them, right?
Yeah.
You never know. I think Turpin told me something once about the theater, because he's an actor. And he said somebody, like a director or something of a play that he was doing, once told him, make every performance like it's the audience's first time seeing theater. It's their first experience, because it could be. Like, even if you've done it, this is your 10th night, still make it special, because it could be somebody in the audience is probably looking at you and going, this is really cool. I really like this experience, and I want to see more of this. Because you never know. And you never know for teaching, like what little things, like the teachable moments, or, the little corrections in the classroom, or little moments of inspiration, or the whispers in the air, what kind of those little things, of how that affects them throughout their entire life. Like, you could be the one doing that, right? You never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
So, Kung, I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the one educator who, just to follow up on your point, can you name the educator who made that difference for you, that you reflect, who maybe changed how you see the world, or how you wanted to be seen, or really turned you on to being a learner?
I'm going to have to say my dad.
Yeah, no, fair.
Just because, like, he actually never graduated from high school. He, coming from China, he taught me a lot in terms of learning and being responsible for your own learning, because everything he did was self-taught. And he worked so many different... Every time I talk to him, like, he'll mention, he'll tell the story about, one time when I was a seamstress. You were a seamstress too? What are you talking about? Because I know, here's the list. I know he worked in an electronics shop making microphones at one point. I know now I know he sewed at one point. He worked in a bank at one point. He worked in a restaurant. He worked in, he was a repairman for Hobart. So that was like when I was growing up, he was a Hobart man. He would go to like Save On in the middle of the night and fix their wrapper or whatever. But all these odd jobs, and he knows so much, right? Anytime I've got a problem, like thing in my car is not working, he'd be the first person I'd call, because he would have some idea about the mechanics of the thing and how to make it work, and or at least how to troubleshoot it, or where to find the information. So, I mean, he taught me a lot in terms of being responsible for your own learning and making sure that you learn as many different things as possible and not be too narrowly focused on one thing. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I would have to say my dad. Yeah, more than anybody. Opened my eyes to just how to learn, right? And I think I try to bring that into the classroom, and this is why we have a cross-curricular course, because I don't think learning should be siloed, and you shouldn't walk into a science classroom and only think science, because there's so much history in science. There's so much, about communication in science that's important as well. And when we silo things, that's where you get the kids who walk into science, they spell stuff wrong and don't know how to write all of a sudden, even though they just had English class. And they're like, why do you care? We're in science class. We're not in English. Or we'll try to do some math and science, and they'll be like, this is not math class, right? That's what really got us thinking about how can we do things differently, right?
That's cool.
Yeah. Anyways, my advice to you, since just going back to your question, is just to not be afraid to try things. A few years back when we first started innovation, that got a lot of teachers' backs up. I remember a particular meeting where we were brought to the meeting and, we were being questioned, what is this innovation thing? Like, you haven't tested it. And I remember somebody saying, well, why don't you sit on it for a year and figure things out first? And by that time, Turpin and I had already had conversations. We gone on a whiteboard, put all the learning targets together, and we're like, oh, here's some themes appearing, and this could actually work. And like, we didn't have a class yet or anything. We were trying to get attention. We got some attention for sure. But the question was put to us, like, why don't you sit on this for a while and just think about it some more? And my line back, which kind of shocked them, was, well, that's just not how you learn things. You have to try it. Because, I heard a quote the other day, there's no such thing as good writing. There's only such thing as good rewriting, because you have to start somewhere. And you cannot learn just by sitting on your hands and, waiting for the perfect moment to do something. You have to go and try it. And by trying it, that's where you get your learning from. And you guys know that. You guys have tried everything for the first time, right? And you'll bring whatever you learn from that to the next time you do that same thing, or something different, and you'll remember that. And you got to just begin.
I think that's a good life lesson too. That could be, for anything, any major life choice. You just have to do it. Just try.
It's been easy to try things. I mean, it's not easy to try new things, but it's been easier to try new things during our practicum because we're supported. Like, there's a huge cushion right now with your essays or with your faculty associates, whoever it is. I just want to make sure that as we continue with like all of our classmates continuing in this program, to keep that in mind, like keep trying, like keep doing new things, like even if it doesn't work out the first time. But yeah, that's a great lesson.
Yeah, because I think there are teachers out there who just run the same show every single year. And for me, that would be super boring. If I ever stop learning from what I'm doing and I'm just running through the overheads, we don't use overheads anymore, but running the same slideshows or recycling everything every single year, things need to change once in a while. And you meet the class for the first time and you already know this is going to be different.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Yule, who's your memorable teacher?
Oh, I had two that probably had Yeah. One was a guy in college. So was a guy named Raul Grossman, who Kimmy, oddly enough, had. I had Raul in his first few years of teaching, and Kimmy had him as he retired. So we've compared notes. And Raul was, wow, he's a tour de force. Polyglot, speaks a number of different languages. And he was the one who we sat down for our first socials test, and I looked down, and it was a crossword puzzle. And I was like, huh. Now, I grew up in a pretty literate family where you were expected to be able to do crossword puzzles, so this was my wheelhouse. But there was some stuff on there that if you hadn't done the suggested readings, you could never achieve the top mark.
Oh, I see.
And so I was like, oh, thankfully. And I love a good bit of trivia, and I'm pretty competitive. So he was the one who just would challenge you constantly. We did this document analysis where it was difficult. He had discovered it in the archives in Mainz when he was over doing whatever. I think it was his PhD research, but he found this document, and loosely the premise was this was a young girl who in the 1450s masqueraded as a man to go out and do the corvée and like this forced work. And it's all about her experiences. And it was a really weird read. I'm not going to lie. It was like 8 pages. And he had translated it from Old German to then English. And he would make us read this. And his whole point was, you can read it once and you will get whatever you get out of it. But with every close reading after that, you will then pick up more and more things that your mind just glosses over. And the whole point was not about the story, although it was kind of interesting. It was about being disciplined enough to teach someone that if you're going to read a document, you have to do it more than once, and there's steps to success. That was the whole point. And Raul was the kind of guy who said, look here, if you can't write this, and he was pretty ruthless, like he really valued you being able to write well, but he would say, you fell short here, but there wasn't necessarily a negative connotation on the mark, because he was more about the process and creating and the like, because he could see that if you were super engaged. And the other one was a teacher in high school named Joni McDougall, who was my geography teacher. And she was old school, pretty stern, but she was the first one who probably identified that I was a much more capable student than I let on, because I valued I was a bit of the class clown, I think is probably the nice way to put it. Shocking. Kanga's just like, yeah, fair. I can tend to find the humor in most things, not a skill a lot of institutions value, but I had submitted something that I thought was pretty good. And Joni, to her credit, read it, and before class ended, called me up, and in front of all my peers said, I'd like you to redo this. And I was like, why? She said, because you're being intellectually dishonest with yourself. You deserve better. And I'm willing to mark that, sure. But it's not your best work. Do better. And I was really humbled. And I was mad because she did it in front of the class, but it really lit a fire under me, because she then followed up with, it's okay to be a good student and popular. You shouldn't, don't think that these are mutually exclusive.
Right.
And it was like the light sort of opened up, and I became a much better student after that, because I always just took for granted that, yeah, I could do it, but I didn't see the value in it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yes, with strict teachers, we have a few strict teachers here, or who would be characterized as being strict, but that's just, to me, I see it as just having some standards and willing to push a student, right? As opposed to just saying, yeah, that's good enough. That's the best they can do. Like, if you really care, then you would be willing to test the limits of that student and have trust that they can actually do better on something. To me, that's what being strict is about. And I know as a fact, we've had Ms. Chow's one of those teachers who gets that reputation. We've had other teachers like that as well at the school, where students often tell me, that was the best experience of that, changed everything for them, because there was this one teacher who pushed me, right? As opposed to just letting my buffoonery go. I could have been just, lazy or doing nothing. And in other classes, that would have been just let go. But in this class, there were expectations that I could do better, and they made me do better, right? So
I tell students, I'm a nice guy. I actually am. But I don't confuse nice guy with not having standards, because I have expectations. And it's interesting to see when they really want to work for you and where you can have this honest conversation around, well, you thought of this. Because generally most kids want to do well. Like there's a spirit of it. And if you can have enough community that you can build it with them, it's amazing what a kid will do for you just to get the, hey, nice work. It's, it is. It's super powerful. So.
I definitely had a teacher like that in high school.
yeah.
Yep. And it was interesting because at the time I was in grade 12. In grade 11, it was a good academic year for me, and I felt like I did well, and I was there and I was present. And in grade 12, there's a lot more going on in your life, and social things pick up and everything kind of gets skewed. And I was having a really hard time balancing everything. And there's one teacher in particular that looked at me and was like, Riley, I don't know what's going on. And it was a very professional conversation. It never felt personal in any way. It was a personal conversation because they cared, but they weren't taking it personally. Whereas sometimes I found that when my grades were slipping, other teachers were personally upset, like I had offended them in some way, which didn't make any sense to me. And then you're almost more angry at that teacher. You're like, okay, why are you paying so much attention? I have stuff going on in my life. Can't you understand? Whereas this teacher it was professional. The boundaries were there. And it was I don't know what's going on. You're not meeting the boundaries. If you need help after class, come see me after class. But this is what it was. And that was probably the only class that I continued to push myself in and excel in. And that was Mr. V, with Kevin Vasconcelos. And that was a phenomenal course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that.
A friend of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
it's
cool.
a good shout out, Gun.
What are your next steps, guys? This is
Please
your
get a
last
job.
week. Last week, you're applying for jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going on a little vacation, take a break.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because I'm going to Germany for a month. And I'm going to Amsterdam and Copenhagen.
So cool.
So just going to take a little breather and then come home for a couple days. And then I go to Hawaii with my friends.
Take advantage of the cheap airfare before you have to take it when everybody else takes a vacation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
True.
And Copenhagen's amazing but expensive.
Yeah, I know. I'm worried about that part. It's only for a couple days.
Germany at Christmas, though, that's a bucket list.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That'll be so beautiful.
Yeah.
Real Christmas market.
Christmas market.
Yeah.
Get a picture of you. Selfie.
Yeah.
I don't have anything planned.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
That's also good. Just
Job
chill,
hunting.
Job
rest.
hunting.
Just
I'm
take a
excited,
1 minute
yeah,
break.
just for a little bit of a break. I know with Christmas coming in, families coming over and stuff, which will be nice. Just you need some time to just sleep. I'm
We all
ready
need
to
a
just,
break.
just sleep. It's the only thing on the agenda right now.
Yep.
Absolutely. I treasure days when I have nothing. And my kids are old enough now where I don't have to always be driving them around. And my son's in university. He's on his own. But yeah, the days when we can just sit around and read a book or do nothing at all, it's awesome. Play a video game, watch a movie, and that's my day.
Yeah. Oh, Friday nights, that's what I do. Every Friday night.
You need it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been really good having you guys not only on the show, but also at this school as part of our school community. You were successful in your student teaching.
Yay.
Heard lots of great things from everyone else about the two of you. And we were very lucky to have you guys as part of our, hopefully working here one day. We could always hope, because we would definitely love to have you guys here.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic experience. I can't say enough good things. And a lot of times people say, practicum it's hard. And they have difficult experiences. And I think when I'm reflecting on it, I'm wow, we lucked out. Not only was it fantastic to have Emma here as a partner, but the whole community, the students, our essays, all of you guys, like it's been.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm so sad to leave.
Me
like,
too.
I don't want to
We're
leave.
sad to let you go.
I don't want to leave. Like, I wish I could come
I don't
back
wanna
after.
Wake up on Wednesday and be like,
That's
I don't have anything.
But we'll find
to
a
do.
way to be back at Delview.
Back at
Look
Delview.
out for that
already.
Delview posting.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, once a Raider, always a Raider, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me so much.
Thank
It's been
you.
great. We're going to miss you guys.
Aw, I'll
That's
miss
true.
you too.
And thanks for having this conversation with us.
Of
It's been
course.
awesome.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
All right.
Keep
Take
in
care.
touch.
Keep in touch for sure.